he was here. Where did he go? Where did I lose Mark Kites? Is he in here or is he back in children's church? Oh, he's in the corner.
Sitting in the corner.
Is he on the floor? Of course he is, but you're awake! Bravo. Mark is my napping, I'm not going to say napping buddy, that's wow, service just got really interesting. My buddy that naps a lot. But he's also a buddy of mine who loves to give me a ton of grief over stuff, which is fine because I give it back, I deserve it. And if you don't know this already, there's a group of us friends that we love to go camping. And so, and the quick backstory is my wife told me when we were young and newly married that she hated camping. It was the worst thing in the entire world. She wanted nothing to do with it. And then over time she softened and decided that a pop-up camper would be sufficient. And so we wound up getting a pop-up camper. And then my dream all along was a big trailer, but I understood I had to ease her in slowly. And so we did a pop-up camper. And somehow 2 years ago I encouraged her to upgrade a little. It was an accidental massive upgrade because I intended to get one of those little shorties, like hard side campers. And I happen to have a friend who owned an RV place who gave me a springy deal. And so we now drive a 30-foot RV around. Well, it's a trailer, but I feel like it's very conspicuous pulling into campsites. It's like, there's the tents, there's the pop-up, and what the heck is that? Anyway, but when we go camping, we're always giving each other a hard time. But there was one particular trip where Mark gave me a really hard time. He accused me of something. That was, you probably don't even remember this, but he accused me of something. It was a horrible thing to accuse a person of, mostly. But it was also pretty funny. See, we were driving back from a camping trip. It was up near Stanley. And this is when we had a little pop-up camper. And if you've ever had a pop-up camper, if you've ever been in one, you know that they have these little jack stands. That you want the jack stand, or it's a very uncomfortable night's sleep, right? Because the thing moves all over. So it has these big jack stands on it. And on this particular pop-up, they didn't like to stay locked up like this. Because when you're driving, you obviously don't want to be dragging them. So they didn't always like to stay. And every once in a while, one would drag. Well, this happened to be late summer, like 2-3 years ago. It was late summer, and we were coming back down Banks Loman Road. Anybody know where in the world Banks Loman Road is? Yes. Okay, if you don't know, it's on your way to McCall off 55. It goes past Project Action towards the budding metropolis of Loman. Anyhow, as we came through, we came up on a fire. The hillside just west of Crouch, between Crouch and Highway 55, was completely on fire. And you knew that because the very first thing you saw from a ways off was what? Smoke. Right? Smoke. So we go through there, we're driving through, we end up having to wait. They're only doing one lane at a time because obviously they don't want to light you on fire. If anybody's ever seen the show Planes, you understand the terror there. And we got through, we got out there, and we had to stop somewhere. And Mark goes, you started that fire, right? And I looked at Mark, I'm like, huh? Because Mark was like 20 minutes behind us, or maybe a little shorter than that. But he didn't realize we came up on the fire was already going and had been for a while. And what apparently had happened was the jack stand on my trailer had fallen loose and was dragging on the pavement and sparking. So from Mark's perspective, Travis is dragging a jack, there's sparks everywhere, and now the freaking mountain's on fire. And I get it. 2 and 2 equaled 5 for him, and that was all right. I'm like, I didn't start the fire, dude. And then I told him we were stuck at it and everything was cool. But the point of that story is to say that perception, anybody know this saying? Perception is what? 9/10 of reality. And the reason that Brad did his little rant this morning, I'm his friend, by the way, who posted the rant. And it's funny because for me, and those of you who know anything about me know that after almost 10 years at a radio station, I left to start my own business. And my whole business is about media. All forms of media, video, audio production, audio and video production, and just more and more graphic design, the whole 9 yards. So it's basically about helping people tell a story. And it's really interesting because a lot of what I do, it was before, but now it's even more so on social media. I live on social media. It's the free way to market, it's the free way to advertise, and it's a free way to connect with people. that I've noticed, because I spend so much time on social media, is that it is a horrible medium of communication, 9 times out of 10. And this isn't today's sermon. I just told my friends and I have to preach a whole sermon on this. I'm all serious. Wow. But I see it, I do it, my friends do it, the whole 9 yards. The whole principle being, there is, I haven't coined the phrase for it yet, but there's this unrealistic anonymity that happens in social media, where we will say things to each other or insinuate things about one another that we would never in a million years do if we were sitting across the table from each other. Social media is fantastic, but its ugly underside is simply that we destroy each other with words. We share posts without even reading them. We align ourselves with one polar opposite or the other. And I feel, this is a different sermon, you don't want to hear it, I'll do it, but I feel like the reason our country is so divided is our own darn fault. Because we've done it on social media. We align with a particular viewpoint and we share posts. We don't read them, we don't think about the consequences, we just click the share button and we destroy each other and we're dividing our country. That's another sermon. Today, it's even deeper than that. The reason I call it Where There's Smoke is because there's very few truer signs of fire than smoke. Now, is fire, is Leif here today? Leif's not here. Leif is our resident fire mountain man. I think if Leif grows a beard any bigger, we're going to have like a new batch of Robins come next spring. But he is our resident mountain man, and if you don't know this about Leif, he is a mountain firefighter. And Leif will even tell you, I'm confident of this, even without him here, that fire is not always a bad thing, is it? Because what can fire do? Open things up, it purifies, right? You guys remember, what was it, like 10, 12 years ago, when a fire ravaged Yellowstone National Park? Okay. I went through a few years later. You know how beautiful Yellowstone National Park is because of that fire? Just the foliage that is growing and everything. So it doesn't have to be a bad thing.